Another week, another critical game, the best college football state in the country, and just another week here on the Bedlam Nation Conversation. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Bedlam Nation Conversation presented by Dodge. I'm Mike Kaler, and joining me today are OU beat writer Jake Trotter and OSU beat writer Scott Wright. Let's talk about in the first segment about the big game this week. That's OSU going to Texas. Guys, what's it going to take for OSU to pull it off? We'll start with you, Scott.
Well, it's really going to take all the things we expected it to take when they went to Missouri. I think that the offense is going to have to score a lot of points. The defense is going to have to do like they did at Missouri and create some turnovers. Make sure they can get off the field as much as possible. This Texas offense, I came on this show multiple times and said that I didn't think they were any good. They've proven me wrong.
By the way, for the record, I said that they were really
again.
good. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
right. That's right. And they're playing as well as anybody, and they seem to be just now hitting their stride. So this is a really tough task, especially for the defense. But the offense is going to have to be on its game.
Jake, you've seen Texas play. How do you think this matchup works out?
Well, I think Scott's right. OSU has to do a lot of the things that it did at Missouri, but it's going to take more. And I think it's going to take more big plays from the offense. 28, it's not going to get it done in Austin. I think they're going to have to get into the 40s because Texas is going to score. So we're going to need Des Bryant. You're going to need Kendall Hunter. You're going to need Zach Robinson to make a lot more big plays than what they did at Missouri. And I think if that happens, OSU has a chance.
OU wasn't able to run much against the Longhorns. OSU brings Hunter and Tostin and that good rotation that they have there, let alone Zach Robinson. Is that kind of where it's going to swing? Is how much OSU is able to run?
I think there's a good chance that that's the case. Oklahoma, obviously, that wasn't just a one-time thing for Oklahoma. They had some other running struggles against other teams. Oklahoma State's been able to run the ball effectively every game this season. Nobody's been able to hold Kendall Hunter under 90 yards yet. But that's really where Oklahoma State's offense is going to be able to establish itself is if they can start to run the ball early, because this is a really good defensive front for Texas. I think probably the secondary is probably the weakness. Mm-hmm. So if you can have some success against that strong front seven and give yourself some opportunities to take advantage of that secondary, that's where they're really going to be able to score some points.
Jay, talk about that D-line that Texas has a little bit, because they pushed OU around.
Well, Rapko is one of the best pass rushing ends in college football, and then Roy Miller is an outstanding defensive tackle. He was nominated for Big 12 Player of the Week. They get a push, and that's going to be problematic for OSU if Zach Robinson and Kendall Hunter don't have space in the backfield to operate. So the offensive line for Oklahoma State certainly has a big task, and they're going to be key in this game.
Well, and that in the middle is what could be really huge. If Roy Miller is pushing guys back into the way, that really disrupts that option really quickly, and that's one of their biggest weapons.
You need time to read it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll be back to talk about the big OU Kansas State game and the BCS after this message from Dodge. And we're back here on the Bedlam Nation Conversation. Now let's talk a little bit about the Sooners. Jake, OU has K-State this weekend, and it looks like they got some of the problems fixed that they've been worried about that's really hurt them with injury, both at middle linebacker, and the running game has revived itself a little bit. Are those fixes going to stick?
I don't know. We'll see. One game does not a season make. DeMarco Murray showed some flashes of last year in the Kansas game. Can he continue running that way? Chris Brown, the same thing. The offensive line blocked well. The perimeter blocking was good. But they're going to have to do it more than one game. Kansas has a nice defense, but there are better defenses out there. So it'll be interesting to see how they do on the road. I don't know if they've really fixed middle linebacker. They put someone there. Mm-hmm. They did give up 31 points, and they did give up a lot of big plays. I think 4 plays of 40 yards or more. Is Nick Harris the permanent fix there? I think he was more of a stopgap than the permanent fix. They need some of these other guys, Austin Box, to get on the field and help, because they're at their best when Nick Harris is at his natural position. So we'll see where they go. Bob Stoops has said this is not a permanent move necessarily. Mm-hmm. So at any point over the course of the season, we could see Harris move back to strong safety and Austin Box or somebody else at middle linebacker.
Is it getting to the point where they're just one of the best 11 athletes available, sort of, like a draft pick?
Yeah, it's about athletes anymore defensively, because it's become about athletes offensively, and you have to counter that with something. The nice thing about Harrison middle linebacker is you have basically 6 or 7 defensive backs in your back seven. which against the Kansas is effective because they run so many 5 wide receiver sets. Against an Oklahoma State, I'm not so sure because they have a good running game. What are they, leading the nation in rushing? So Kendall Hunter's a great back, and maybe you don't need power to bring him down necessarily, but to get in there and stop gaps, you need a big physical linebacker. I don't know if Nick Harris is that guy or not.
The other big news this week was the BCS that came out on Sunday. OU sitting at number 4, OSU at 6. Talk a little bit about just kind of the weirdness this week, because Sooner fans want the Cowboys to win, and just to kind of for positioning. Jake, where do you think, is this a good spot for both of these teams, and how much movement is there going to be after?
Well, I think it's a good spot for OSU in the sense that they're in the running. They have a really tough road. I mean, when you think about winning at Texas and winning at Texas Tech, they've already won at Missouri. I mean, if they pull off those 3, deserve to play for the national title, but anyone, I think.
Orange October.
And really, if they could split those 2 games, I think it would be really impressive going into Bedlam. You'd be 10-1 at that point. Mm-hmm. So I think that I think they're in a pretty good spot. The schedule's not very kind. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma is in a pretty good spot. I feel like you're the best 1-loss team in there according to BCS. You really don't have that big of a test until mid-November, and I know OU's lost to a couple teams you didn't think they would last year. But man, Kansas State on the road, Nebraska at home. You don't see really too much of a threat between those 2 teams. But certainly Texas Tech and Oklahoma State can be tough games that aren't going to be easy to win, but you have to do that anyway over the course of the season. But I like where they both are in terms of the BCS. Like OU schedule, don't like OSU schedule.
Scott, what do you think about how OSU has set itself up for at least a really good bowl game?
Yeah, I mean they're in a really good position. Regardless of what happens this week at Texas, they can bounce back with the win against Iowa State and set them up for those 2 crucial road games at Tech and at Colorado, and that's really going to be what ultimately I think decides where they end up. If you have 2 losses at the end of the season and it's Texas and Oklahoma who are both right now in the top 5 of the BCS, you're not putting yourself in real bad situation. So it's going to bode well for them. I think really just about anything is open at this point. It's going to be really tough for them to make any kind of a run at the national title because that schedule is so tough. But they're in a good position to maybe go into Bedlam with only 1 loss, and anything can happen. The
Tech and the Colorado game are the key games for OSU because you're right. If you lose to Texas on the road, you'd like to beat OU at home, but let's say you lose that game, you're still got a 10-2, 9-2 season. So. Or 10-2 season, I guess. So, that's a really good year for OSU. When's the last time they won 10 games?
Is there a chance, if Texas kind of takes care of business and whoever wins the North isn't very impressive, that the Bedlam game could be for a BCS bowl? Whoever wins that?
Oh, definitely. I think so.
Yeah, I think
the Big 12.
If the Big 12 sends 2.
Yeah, you would think. Mm-hmm. Who is going to send 2 right now? SEC, Big 12.
No, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And you've got to think that whoever finishes second in the Big 12 South is better than whoever wins the Big 12 North.
Big 12 teams should root against the Boise States and the Tulsas of the world. And
poor Tulsa.
Yeah. Root for Tulsa. Always root for Tulsa.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, what I say, Utah, TCU, right. Boise State, and Tulsa, the 4 BCS busters. Mm-hmm. If one of those teams is in the top 12 in the BCS, which frankly looks kind of likely at this point, they'll take one of those BCS spots. That would only be 1 from the major conferences. That could go to the SEC when it's all said and done, depending on how that shakes out. So, but there's definitely a chance that Big 12 gets 2 teams, as what happened last year.
All righty, thanks, guys. We'll be back with the final segment, predictions, right after this message from Dodge.
My all-new Dodge Journey took me from a 400-square-foot studio apartment.
Call Mario.
Hello?
Yo, man, I'm on my way.
To a new crib downtown.
Play memo.
Staff meeting, 9:30.
Now this house is mine. The higher you go, the sweeter the journey. Introducing the crossover that's ready for anything. The all-new Dodge Journey. If you can dream it, do it.
Last segment here on the Bedlam Nation, presented by Dodge. Prediction time, guys. Scott, we'll start with you. The big OSU-Texas game. What do you say?
It's funny. I was sitting here during the break trying to remember what my prediction was, and the only number that keeps popping into my head is 45-35. I know that was the score of the Texas-Oklahoma game. So, but I'm going to stick with that. I think it's about I think Oklahoma State can score enough to keep this game within that 13-point spread. But I don't see them going in there and winning this game.
Jake, well, you can pick your own game, and then you can pick this other game too. What do you say?
Do I have to pick an original score?
Of course not.
Okay. Well, let's say I haven't picked this game yet, but I'll go with Texas 44, Oklahoma 30, or Oklahoma State 30. Does that sound? And then right at the line. And then you may pick Kansas State, or you want to wait?
Yeah,
You want to ask the question?
State,
okay.
No, that's all right.
I'm gonna go Oklahoma 42, Kansas State 20. Two field goals.
44-20 is actually what I predicted. I remember that one. I can't remember why. I don't know.
Surprised you didn't say 42-20. Just steal my score.
Just say 45-35 for everything else from here on out.
That sounds good.
Alrighty, thanks, guys. That wraps up the Bedlam Nation conversation. Remember, no one covers OU and OSU football like we do. Read all about it at newsok.com, bedlamnation.com, and every day in the Oklahoman.